Today's dedication is for Terax, who gave me a very generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Yargle and Multani versus Oswald, which is going to be a fast deck, and we don't have any colours anyway, so that's an easy decision. Alright, Jeweled Lotus with some other colours in hand and some removal we will keep. I think getting rid of the Garruk's Uprising is better there, because we've got Trample on Rancor, and the Hunter's Insight is better card draw. And Ancient Tomb is 2 mana on turn 1, straight into the Eco Wellspring to cantrip. Alright, and there's a Sylvan Library, which is probably our next turn's play, because we do need to get into a third land for the Multani. Oswald into play, and they get down a Wayfarer's Bauble as well, so 5 cards in hand. There's an Ashnod's Intervention to keep our commander in play, so Twilight Mana into the Sylvan Library still. Okay, going for a Heliod's Intervention instead of activating the Oswald, so let's hope we've got a land on top. We do not, it's a Murderous Rider, so all we can do there really is go Tear Asunder onto the Eco Wellspring so that they draw fewer cards. They didn't take 2 life to the Ancient Tomb, thanks to our Yavimaya, by the way. A Ranger Captain of Eos for our opponent will allow him to search for a small creature. And it was, we're about to see it now, the Esper Sentinel. So we'll be able to draw cards off us most likely with that, because we're going to struggle on lands apparently. Okay, they did slow us down a turn with lands, because we would have got that off the Sylvan Library of course, so do they have removal in hand is the question. I think we just have to go... Yeah, they draw a card either way here. As soon as we get down Jeweled Lotus, we could just go for the Swift End. Maybe we get into a land next turn, we can play our commander and hold up the Ashnod's Intervention to keep it in play. Yeah, it doesn't look like they're all that eager to activate Oswald, so yeah, let's just go for the Yargle. We can draw a card to the Sentinel. So it's just a case of hoping that our opponent doesn't have removal for our commander now, because if he does, then it's probably game already. A Mycosynth Wellspring now will allow our opponent into a basic. Already played a Myriad Landscape by the looks of it though. So now sacrificing the Mycosynth Wellspring, so he did want that Eco Wellspring in before by the looks of it here. Wants a 3 mana artifact. Could have a means of stopping us attacking. No, it is a Petria's Seal. So alright, untapping the Oswald with that. And then sacrificing the Wayfarer's Bauble to get a 2-drop. And that is a prized statue, so they're just hoping to outvalue us here in typical Oswald fashion. Haven't gone to set up a combo yet though, which we should obviously be grateful for. And we've also untapped with Ashnod's Intervention held up, so still wouldn't mind a land here. Okay, we can't cast non-creature spells this turn, so if we get into a land... Okay, that's good, so we've got Bayous for the rest of the game now, thanks to Yavimaya and Urborg. So that means that during our upkeep we can blow up the Oswald with the Swift End, and then we're still holding up the Ashnod's Intervention. So we'll see if our opponent allows commander damage here. Test our opponent for Swords and Path as well. Throwing the Esper Sentinel away is probably a good idea, because we could get Trample on our commander next turn for all they know, and that's exactly what we're aiming to do. Problem here of course is that they can still do stuff during the upkeep with the Oswald, and they can still untap. They might want to play something into Oswald during the main phase, so we might be putting them at a little bit of a disadvantage, but I mean we'll force them to do whatever they're doing during the upkeep if we can begin their turn. Alright, not sure what my opponent's doing here, but he's not passing through to his next turn. Alright, that's disappointing. Yeah, won't dwell on it. Next game. Yargle and Multani versus Zerda this time. Could struggle on colours there, but we've got plenty of mana. Yeah, I'll just keep it, whatever. Opponent's probably going to quit on turn 1 anyway. So we just pray for another coloured source of mana basically. We're going to need 2 as it happens. So Sol Ring takes us into Grim Monolith, which will tap for 3 mana. And we just need another untapped land basically. Turn 1 Skull Clamp for the Zerda. And there's an Allosaurus Shepherd, don't think it shares any types. Frog Spirit Elemental and an Elf Shaman, so we'll just name Elemental. So we've got 1 more turn to get down the Yargle. So we'll just have to pray for another source of coloured mana next turn. Paradise Mantle for our opponent will be equipped for 1 and then tap for a mana of any colour. More potential ramp in Sword of the Animist. Yavimaya Hollow. Exactly the land that we don't want. Alright, so the Zerda comes into play. We don't have a green to actually play the Farseek. So, yeah, pass again. Sword of the Animist being equipped onto the Zerda. And then we see a Weathered Wayfarer. The Skull Clamp goes on Zerda as well. So now a 5-3 swinging in at us, and we'll ramp, of course. So let's try again. Alright, a Commander's Plate gives us protection from Boros. So throw that out and continue to keep our fingers crossed. Sword of Body and Mind protection from green is relevant. And watch them mill a bunch of lands off the top of our library here. So now it's a 7-5 Zerda going to ramp again, not holding up the Weathered Wayfarer because obviously they have more lands than us. The Boros deck ramping better than a green one. Alright, in all that there's 1, 2, 3, only 3 lands, so could have been more insulting. Alright, and a Nurturing Peat land, that will do. So get there eventually. So Yargle and Multani come into play, and it's 3 to equip a commander. So making use of that fast mana eventually. So now we've got a 21-9 commander. Do not have a means of getting commander damage on them until we can get rid of the wolf token though. Because obviously there's no protection from green available to us. They drop the Silverblade Paladin, which puts double strike on the Zerda, so that'll be us done because it's got pro green. So yeah, it was just a case of obviously not having the mana we needed. We could have slammed through our opponent's creatures with the Commander's Plate for a one-shot, but waiting far too long for the mana, so take our damage from our opponent. And in Voltron versus Voltron, we go down on this one. So we will try yet again. Up against Kumina this time, and we've actually got some lands, but no ramp. So I'm going to mulligan that. Okay, that's a bit better. We've got some card draw at least, so let's keep that. Get rid of... Oh, Jesus. Okay, up against the same player again. Let's hope that his finger just slipped. Oh, wow. Yeah, he might scoop to this anyway. Let's keep. So get down a Bayou on turn 1 and we'll drop the Shadow Spear. No turn 1 play for our opponent. Hunter's Prowess, we're hoping for a third land by turn 3. Can't do anything there, so just pass the turn. Okay, Simic Growth Chamber, we'll tap them out for the turn. So again, hoping for a land off the top. That will mean that we get down a Yargle. Okay, it's a land, it's a tap land unfortunately, but our opponent's going pretty slow anyway, so we'll just play it. And Kumina coming down without any merfolk in play. Alright, there's some ramp. Do we just go Maelstrom Pulse here? I think we're fine to do that. Buys us some time trying to get into more lands. Because our opponent could have removal for the Multani, and that wouldn't feel good if we've just used a Jeweled Lotus on it, so let's do that next turn instead. I suppose we've got ramp that we can get it back out again with. Now a Forerunner of the Heralds, and it's a Realm Waker. Our opponent's tutored up, so we'll likely play that next turn and can hopefully get in some Merfolk off the top. A land here would be great so that we can... Okay, Urborg, because I want to hold up Vines of Vastwood. And yeah, the Urborg allows us to do that. So throw out the Jeweled Lotus. Alright, Beast Within. Had a feeling our opponent would have some means of getting rid of our commander, so they could still have counter magic for the Vines of Vastwood, but we'll try and give hexproof to our commander. Alright, and we do manage to get hexproof on there. So another land, please, so that we can go Hunter's Prowess. Alright, Rishkar's Expertise isn't awful. So that means that we drop the Arcane Signet. And we just have to hope that there's no more targeted removal here. Put Trample on the Yargle. And they're on a 2-turn clock here, so they do need to do something. Got a 19-7 lifelink Trample commander. Realm Walker into play, looking for some more Merfolk. And that does count as a Merfolk, so triggers the Forerunner of Heralds. Puts a plus counter on that. But it's removal for the Yargle and Multani they need, really. Okay, more ramp in Cultivate, so let's just see if we can go straight through to landing damage on our opponent here. If we went for Hunter's Prowess or Rishkar's Expertise, then they'd remove it in response anyway, so might as well just swing in and go for lethal. If they can remove it, then they'll have to do it here. And there we go, it's a cross and grip on the trample generator, so yeah, they can chump block us here. They could double block. So the right play there was to go for the Hunter's Prowess. Obviously we didn't know what they had though, because that would have saved it from the damage here, and it would have trampled through for... yeah, it would have trampled through for lethal as well. So we get rid of both of the creatures. Does take the potential card advantage away from them in the Realm Walker though. Go through to the second main. Client's been really buggy, so I'm hoping it doesn't skip it. No, it doesn't. Cultivate will make our land for the turn and ramp us a little bit. And we might as well just grab forests here because there's an Urborg in play, so everything taps for black as it is. Then drop the forest we just searched out, and we'll do the same with Kodama's Reach. So we've got enough for our commander next turn now, thanks to those ramp spells. So if Multani stays in play for a turn cycle, we could test our opponent on removal with the Rishkar's Expertise. If it lands, we can go for a free Hunter's Prowess anyway, and that will enable trample. Again, could have counter magic, so Polluted Delta will tap for black mana, just drop the forest, and go for the Yargle. Okay, managed to land our commander, so we'll assume there's no counter magic in their hand, because they'd definitely counter a Yargle if they could. Now we see a Deeproot Elite, and holding up 5 mana with 3 cards in hand this time. Okay, Ancient Tomb, don't think it really matters. Yeah, if we go Ancient Tomb we can afford to cast both spells. Maybe Rishkar's Expertise will get countered, so yeah, we'll drop the Ancient Tomb here. Try and bait our opponent with the Rishkar's Expertise first. Alright, managing to draw into that, so yeah, we have the Prowler's Helm here to make sure we get through, got protection as well. So Hunter's Prowess will target our Yargle for free, because Rishkar's Expertise can do that for some reason. And then get down the Mana Crypt, and yeah, our opponent is not able to bounce the Yargle or anything, so that would have been the only means for them to do anything there, I think, because yeah, we don't have any means of hexproof or anything. A pretty quick one, as Yargle and Multani games tend to be, so we'll try one more, I think. Playing Rune now, and yeah, similar cards to last time. Don't have any ramp though, which is what we always want with Yargle. Sylvan Library and Kodama's Reach will do. Fate Your Own Death isn't the worst either, so keep. And yeah, let's get rid of a forest. Just a tap land from our opponent. We will follow suit with an Overgrown Tomb intapped. And we drew into Demonic Embrace. That will buff our commander and give it evasion as well. Gala Greeters for the BAMP player. Alright, and more protection. This time it is Undying Malice. So, yeah, get down as many coloured pips as possible. We'll go for a Bayou here. And then it's obviously the Sylvan Library, as the experts amongst you would have no doubt worked out by now. And now seeing an evoked Muldrifter for our opponents, so going up to 4 cards in hand. And they make a treasure token with the Gala Greeters. So then it's round to our turn. Obviously they lose the Muldrifter to the Evoke ability. And we get into yet another means of protecting our commander in Supernatural Stamina. Alright, there is a Demonic Tutor, so another means of protecting. So Feign Death can go on top. And we'll keep the Demonic Tutor. Might as well drop the Avamire Hollow and fix our colours with the Kodama's Reach then. And we'll go for one of each. A forest can go into play tapped, and we'll put a swamp in our hand once Magic Online decides to catch up. Skyclave Apparition comes in, and that will blow up the Sylvan Library. So luckily we've shuffled around and have some mystery cards on top. Nothing that we don't want, hopefully. Treasure token made by the Gala Greeters. So we want to get that Skyclave Apparition out of here if we can, because it's going to get flickered and keep getting rid of our stuff. We get hit for 1 by the Greeters. Birds of Paradise into play will trigger the Greeters again. Putting a plus counter on itself. They could have done that before they attacked in, get an extra point of damage on us. Probably won't be relevant though. So do we just go for Demonic Tutoring to a board wipe here? Throw down a swamp. Yeah, could do that. And we're still getting down the Yargle next turn and can threaten commander damage with the Demonic Embrace, so yeah, might as well slow our opponent right down. Don't want them to be able to exile the Demonic Embrace with the Apparition, So tutor up the Toxic Deluge to this day, one of the best creature board wipes in the format. And we're only putting 2 life into it, so 2 life and 3 mana wipes the board. And we get a 2/2 creature token out of the deal, thanks to the Apparition's ability. And our opponent gets into a Sylvan Library, traded out a treasure to do that, so that suggests that he's holding up counter magic, which I suppose we just have to play into. Could go Goreclaw instead, but I want the counter magic out of my opponent's hand. Nothing to stop us going Goreclaw and then our commander the turn after. Pretty slow, but without fast mana, this is the way it goes. Just have to hope it's not a mana drain, really. Nope, it is a counter spell, so can't say much fairer than that. We saw it coming. Swing in for 2 damage on our opponent with the illusion token. Not taking any life to the Sylvan Library, surprisingly, at 35 and only 2 cards in hand. Just gets down a tap land. Maybe fancies his odds of dealing with a Yargle again. Our opponent's green mana's looking pretty good, so dropping the Yavimaya is fine. And Goreclaw will pay for our commander's tax, assuming that it lands here. If it doesn't land, we're gonna need another land. Our opponent is holding up priority, so I'm not sure if that's a bluff. So hopefully Goreclaw sticks because, alright, there's Swords to Plowshares. Well, it's not going on the Yargle at least. None of these protect from exile, do they? When it dies, and when it dies, yes, so just have to let that go. And we're very much hoping for a land next turn now so that we can go for the Yargle. The saving grace is that our opponent doesn't seem to want to put life into the Sylvan Library. Could be accelerating ahead of us here. Yeah, just sticking at 2 cards in hand, and he's constantly seeing what's on top, like only seeing 1 extra card because he's not shuffling between turns here. So I'm guessing this is Rune. No, it is a Peregrine Drake, so it could be Peregrine Drake into Rune. 0 cards in hand for our opponent now, so should probably get down the commander. Can start generating mana with that next turn. Alright, a Concordant Crossroads. Well, that's tempting just so that we can swing in with Yargle if we get it down next turn. Do we start hitting our opponent with the illusion token and a 3/1 buff? Maybe, because they're not willing to put life into Sylvan Library. If they do start putting life into that, it might be too late if we've been whacking them for 5 in the air. Could offer up the trade with the Peregrine Drake that way as well. And the token's easy to throw under the bus so we can get the Demonic Embrace back. So now with a 5/3, we will swing in. They're not going to throw the Peregrine Drake under this, so lightly just taking 5 damage. And if we hit them again next turn, that's obviously 10 damage. We'll have taken them down to 23. And like I said before, it's even less life that they can dump into the library. They know 2 of the cards that are on top of their library, so only seeing 1 card that they might be willing to put life into. Alright, now deciding to put life into one of the cards, so a couple of turns late with that, really. Bloom Tender into play. We'll tap for Bamp Mana immediately, thanks to the Concordant Crossroads. Obviously played this just so that I can hopefully swing in with the Yargle immediately. Not sure if my opponent realises it has haste, actually. 0 cards in hand, so generating mana from Bloom Tender and the Peregrine Drake won't necessarily matter. And they swing in at us, so not planning on blocking, although they could untap it with the rune. Alright, there's a Reflecting Pool, which is what we needed, so throw that out, and down comes Yargle. And this is exactly why I went for the Concordant Crossroads. It was a risk playing it for our opponent, but we obviously don't have the mana spare. Once we get Yargle into play, we just need to be swinging immediately. Okay, so going for... Oh, I see, I forgot you could do that with Rune, actually. So exiling another creature and returning it at the beginning of the next end step, so yeah. Alright, so that's even more that we need to do against our opponent. No, we will not return it to the command zone because we don't want to cast it again. So this is where the 5/3 in the air becomes more and more relevant. Rune's going to take our Yargle out of commission until we can give protection from colours. If we get into some instant speed removal, I'll have to use it on the Rune at the end of his turn so that he can't do anything to us during our turn. We obviously want Summoning Sickness away from Yargle, which should be easy enough with Crossroads in play. Alright, and there's a Gilded Drake from our opponent, so has managed to control us nicely this game. We do have a chump blocker in the Gilded Drake for the Yargle, but we could go down to commander damage on our own commander here, and they can start swinging in immediately. So we'll block with Gilded Drake. Alright, a Rite of Consumption. Turn too late, unfortunately. This has been the entire game, unfortunately. Yeah, they can just exile the illusion token whenever they want to get the Yargle through, so might as well tap it and try and get some damage on our opponent. Alright, and they just decide to do it here. What we could have done there was put a +2 buff on this, made it a 7, hit for 7 and then gone for Rite of Consumption. That would have got them down to 1. But they've got the rune to interact with us. So there's next to nothing we're doing about this, I don't think. Our opponent continuing to not put life into the Sylvan Library, staying at 15. And might as well just swing in with everything here, apart from maybe the Bloom Tender, which now taps for 4 mana. Obviously didn't get into a creature, because that would have had haste and could have swung in straight away. We take 18 commander damage to the Yargle and Multani. Not playing the one card they've got in hand. And a Life's Legacy. I mean, the deck's really based around us having our commander in play, so once that's gone, there's next to nothing we can do apart from point spot removal at it. So everyone turning in sideways, and this will be us. And there we are, going down to -15 and 36 points of commander damage. Not a particularly satisfying game for me, because I wanted to play with Yargle and Multani, and we haven't really had a chance during this video, so one more I think. Alright, the mirror match, this should be interesting. A 2-lander. Baleful Mastery could get rid of a fast commander for our opponent. We need ramp. I always say we need ramp in this deck. Okay, we have some slow green mana into Sylvan Library and some ramp, so we have to keep this, I think. Just need to pray that there's no Jeweled Lotus from our opponent. Don't really like the idea of fixing my opponent's black mana either. Get rid of Life's Legacy, because hopefully we'll be hitting with the Hunter's Insight. Yeah, we could fix our opponent's black mana with the Urborg, which could be useful to him, so yeah, we need to be careful. Might not have a choice but to play it, though. A Mosswort Bridge from our opponent might suggest that it's a slower deck. I mean, obviously it's good with the commander because it's got such high power, but yeah, is it good for 1v1? Alright, another Swamp. I'll play that over the Urborg for reasons that I went over previously. Need to pray that we keep hold of that Arcane Signet, because we're not going to do much without it. A Thought Vessel for our opponent. And that took him into a Soul Ring. I was about to say, at least it's not fast mana, but it is. Still doesn't have double black, but we might see the commander next turn if he manages to drop a black land, so I'll hold off on the Urborg just in case he's only got green. Farseek can be our green mana for the turn, and now we're not as worried about losing the Arcane Signet. Alright, and our opponent did have double green available only, so it had to be Arcane Signet to get the double black. So that buys us a turn. Throwing out the Garruk's Uprising as well, so he'll draw a card on the commander, and it will have trample. Alright, Necropotence. We've got all the black mana they need now, so drop the Urborg, and let's go for the Necropotence, and we'll drop Sylvan Library as well, so that we're definitely getting into cards. Oh, actually, how is this worded? It's skip your draw step, and Sylvan Library says at the beginning of your draw step, so Sylvan Library actually doesn't do anything with Necropotence in play. But they might remove the Necropotence, so we'll make use of our mana this turn and still have a Sylvan Library in play for after this leaves. It's looking like our opponent might have us here already. Gonna dump 7 and get a completely new hand here into the Necropotence, because we don't have much room for Hunter's Insight if we're not going to be able to swing in with our commander. And yeah, I had a feeling that oh wow. I had a feeling I'd get into some lands, and well, we got the Maelstrom Pulse at least. So get rid of Bloodstained Mire and the Polluted Delta. Okay, our opponent deciding to try the Yargle and Multani. Might have protection for it with the Mosswort Bridge. Draw a card to the Uprising. Now have a Swamp available as well, so could have effects like Fake Your Own Death in the deck. Okay, there's a Kaya Ghost Form, so that protects against the Maelstrom Pulse. And there's Rancor as well, so yeah, that's probably game already. Our opponent has outraced us. Yeah, the Maelstrom Pulse is a sorcery, unfortunately, so we have to do it now. Could just trade Yargles, I suppose. but then we just lose our Yargle and they keep theirs. The Kai's Ghost form really changing things up here, so yeah, they get the Rancor back as well because of the claws on that. So we're getting 20 commander damage either way. We want to maximise the amount of mana that we have with Yargle so that we can hold up Fate Your Own Death. Yeah, the fast mana has helped our opponent, unfortunately. They've had more ramp than us. Yeah, let's just go for Maelstrom Pulse. I think we're done here. So Kai's Ghost form and Rancor trigger, and that is commander back into play. Rancor to hand, drawing a card again to the Garruk's Uprising. So it would have been handy if we had an instant speed removal spell there. Well, obviously we don't, so put some more life into Necropotence, and we'll go down to 27 arbitrarily here. I just don't want to draw a full grip of lands again. Alright, Assassin's Trophy helps. That means that we can get rid of their Rancor permanently, because they'll try to enchant the Yargle with it and we'll blow their commander up in response. Alright, so get rid of some lands here. Decided to discard the Demonic Embrace as well because we've got the Shadow Spear. Demonic Embrace is better, but it costs more as well. Shadow Spear costs the same to equip, but we can split the cost up over a turn or two. Maybe should have kept the Demonic Embrace. Okay, so 2 mana held up. There's a Rishkar's Expertise. We have to go for Assassin's Trophy in response to that. I'm not going to worry about the Rancor. Obviously don't want them to draw a bunch of cards. Alright, yeah, and there's the Supernatural Stamina that we assumed that they would have, something like that. So we get to add Summoning Sickness to the Yargle, at least it comes in tapped. And the Garruk's Uprising will trigger and draw another card. They're about to draw a bunch to the Rishkar's Expertise anyway, as well as getting a free spell. So they draw 22, or up to 22 cards in hand. Managed to survive another turn at least. Alright, that's interesting. Dryad of the Elysian Grove being played as the free spell for Rishkar's Expertise suggests they want another land drop, which might suggest that they've got something that they have to have 3 mana for. Alright, the client just crashed on me there. The spell our opponent's casting is a Lotus Cobra, so not sure why they didn't cast that before dropping the land. Okay, so they've dropped their second land for the turn. I thought they'd already made one. Okay, Magic seems to have caught up now. Magic Online. When the enchanted creature dies, target player loses X life or exits power. Yep, got that in this deck. So we're being discouraged from blowing that up now. Right, so don't think we'll be able to survive another turn here. Might as well get down Hall the Bandit Lord just to try our luck. Go for the Cultivate and we'll eventually catch up on mana, which has been the main reason that we haven't done too well this game really. And then I'm not sure what removal spell we could draw into, but yeah, we'll go for it with Necropotence. We're going to lose a bunch of life next turn regardless. Might as well have cards in hand. So I'll draw up to 10 in hand, and we'll obviously have to discard 3 to that. Okay, now we're getting into the stuff that we needed the whole time. Ram through not too good without our commander, so get rid of Hunter's Insight. Fake Your Own Death, not as good as the 1 mana Undying Malice. And we'll just get rid of a land. So it's a case of seeing if our opponent can Alpha Strike us here. Can get at least 20 damage with that Rancor. But with 18 cards in hand, he can buff his commander up surely. Alright, a Cultivate. So made 2 land drops into the Dryad. Made 2 mana with the Lotus Cobra, so that's a 1 mana Cultivate. We'll make landfall again here to trigger the Lotus Cobra. And there's that Rancor. So would love to have gone for Nature's Claim onto the Dying Wish and then blown up the Yargle, but obviously we haven't got into the removal. And now an Allosaurus Shepherd, which we're not going to be countering anything our opponent does, so that doesn't really matter. And then a Sarith. Untapped creatures have hexproof. We're not targeting the Yargle anyway, so yep. And they're obviously going to have to tap it down to attack anyway, so let's go Nature's Claim onto the Dying Wish. They can probably buff it at instant speed to get commander damage through to us here. So maybe going for the Rancor is better, but we've got 13 cards in hand. Maybe can buff it twice even. Yeah, okay. Heroic Intervention. There was never anything we were doing this game. We were too far behind from the offset thanks to the fast mana. But I did say at the beginning that we'll see a good Yargle game one way or another, and it's our opponent that gets the win on this one. I'm assuming our opponent gets the win. Yeah, there we go. It's only 20 commander damage, but we go down to -2. Obviously took a lot of life to the necropotence there, so good game to my opponent. Hopefully you all enjoyed the Yargle and Multani action. Please consider donating on Patreon if you like the videos, because they take a lot of time and effort to produce. Thank you to the few of you who do that already. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.